Hi, this is a podcast dedicated to role models on your doorstep here at the University of Leeds. This is a project funded by Research England through the Enhancing Research Culture stream. We wanted to create a platform to share relatable and inspirational stories from colleagues from a range of cultural backgrounds, sexual orientations, roles, and career stages. I am Tao Jiang, the Associate Professor of Marketing Practice at Leeds University Business School. Today, I will be talking to Professor Louise Jennings. She will be talking to us about her own professional development and share her experience and perspective as a member of staff at the university. Good afternoon, Professor Jennings. Can I call you Louise, if you
Of
don't mind?
course. Yes. Good afternoon, Tao.
Thank you. Thank you very much, because I know you're very, very busy. Thank you very much for sparing time, talking to us. First of all, could you tell us a bit about your role here at the university?
Sure. I'd just like to start though, Tao, by thanking you for inviting me to share my story. But yeah, I am a professor of medical engineering. That's within the Institute of Medical and Biological Engineering, and we're based in the Faculty of Engineering and Physical Sciences. And in my research, I develop and then apply ways to evaluate the function of medical devices, to make sure that they're basically going to do the job that they're intended for. So mechanically, they will perform before they're implanted into patients. So do that evaluation before they're implanted. So the medical devices that I'm particularly interested in are for musculoskeletal repair or replacement. So an example here would be knee replacements, and also for the cardiovascular system, an example would be heart valve replacements. This research, it's very much challenge-led, it's collaborative and multidisciplinary. Combined projects, they often involve industry partners, clinicians, and biologists.
Wow, this sounds amazing, isn't it?
Thank
So,
you.
and I'm just sort of very interested to maybe a little bit nosy. I'm sure our audience to feel the same about, medical engineering. Could you tell us a little bit about the recent research project you're working on so we can understand, the amazing work you do, if it's okay?
Yeah, sure. So one of our current projects is the research and development of a novel biomaterial that could be used in transcatheter aortic valve replacement. So
Mm.
that's a procedure that improves blood flow in your heart by replacing an aortic valve that doesn't open fully. And crucially, it's a much less invasive procedure, so avoids the need for open heart surgery. Initially, this transcatheter procedure was used only for patients who couldn't tolerate open heart surgery, but it's been increasingly used in other patient groups. So moving forwards, the longevity and the durability of the biomaterials, as well as the design used in transcatheter heart valve replacement, is going to be increasingly important. Yeah, so we're looking at developing a new novel biomaterial that could be used in this application.
Wow, you and colleagues such as yourself are really how I describe the unsung backstage heroes. Because as a patient, we don't see you in the theater, but nonetheless, you're doing all the amazing work behind the scene, isn't it? So I take my hat to you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh,
And again, that's an example of a project that's very much a team effort. I work with a colleague from the Faculty of Biological Sciences on this. So yeah, so it's a cross faculty project. We work with industry partner on this project as well. We actually work with another university. So it's very much a team effort.
Oh, amazing. Well, in addition to your academic work, because you're doing lots of groundbreaking research, is
Mhm.
there anything else you do in your capacity or in your role?
Yeah, so I'm also the lead in our faculty, so that's Faculty of Engineering and Physical Sciences for equity, diversity, and inclusion. So, our faculty is one of the largest faculties in the university. I think we have about a quarter of the total Leeds university student population and a
Wow.
fifth of staff. So clearly many diverse experiences and voices that need to be reflected in the decisions the university takes. So I represent our faculty at an institutional level, and also work with our dean to provide, leadership and direction for equity, diversity and inclusion across the faculty and its constituent schools.
Wow. And so, to be honest, if I were a student, if I were one of your students, I'll feel just sort of really lucky, isn't it? You have the cutting edge, academic, the research background, what you're doing in your field, you're one of the top experts, and then you're also, working on the EDIs. So has all these things, how that fit into your teaching, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, sure. So thank you. I mean, my research interests and passion for equity do feed into my teaching, in particular the engineering challenges that I ask my students to solve in their projects. So this year we've been tackling women's healthcare problems, and also developing an affordable transcatheter heart valve in the student projects.
Wow, this is really, really interesting. It's too late for me to become one of your students now. But thank you very much. Okay. And can I ask you all the things, because it's almost like you're doing your research, you're the EDI role, and also you do teaching. And can you tell us, what you really enjoy your role and while being at the university?
Mhm. I really enjoy, working with passionate and dedicated people towards a shared goal, and I enjoy having impact, whether that's helping colleagues and students in their professional development, or working on research projects that ultimately benefit benefit patients, and really being able to shape the role, and get involved in activities that really interest me, that are aligned with my values, and where I feel I can most contribute. That's what I enjoy.
Oh, just from what you said, that word really improving people's life, isn't it? Whether it's students and colleagues or patients, isn't it? So, and thank you very much. Next question I'm going to ask is a bit about your life journey before you getting your job at Leeds, and how that sort of life journey really informed your work and your professional development at Leeds.
Yeah, so I've been at Leeds for for a very long time now. In fact, since 1997. But before that, I studied mechanical engineering with French at the University of Sussex, and I worked in industry for a few years as a quality manager in manufacturing in the Midlands, which is where I grew up. I grew up in a working class family, was educated at the local mixed comprehensive school, and I was the first generation of my family to attend
Wow.
university. And my dad, he'd had an artificial heart valve, and I was like fascinated by medical engineering and the thought of applying my engineering skills to solve problems with the human body. So I left manufacturing to come and pursue a PhD here at Leeds. Then that was under the guidance of Professor John Fisher, who really placed Leeds as a leading, or if not the leading, research institution in medical engineering. And at the end of the day, I think it was probably a good call, because the factory that I worked at is now a housing estate.
Oh, yes, that is a good decision.
Yeah, but it has, kind of affect, I've always kept that with me. So having a background in quality, working in industry, it's still been a thread like throughout my career. Really, really enjoy the industry collaborative working in the majority of my research projects. And I've used the quality skills as well to develop quality systems in our laboratories, and also get involved in the development of international standards. And I currently chair the national BSI, so British Standards Institution, Standards Committee for bone and joint replacements. And I'm also a member on the Gender Equality Committee. So we have our first standard, which is the guidelines for promotion and implementation of Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment, coming out this year. So it's quite exciting time.
That sounds really exciting. And so it's really your childhood and when you saw firsthand, saw that, the mechanical valve in your dad, and that
Yeah.
really triggered your interest, your passion in medical engineering and design things and him to improve. I think maybe back then you were just thinking sort of do something to improve your dad's life, or you're thinking broader. I don't know. What was your thought, back then, if you can remember?
Yeah, I think it was a combination, just a combination of just like being completely fascinated that my dad was able to, my dad's life was being prolonged with something that had been manufactured for him. I was just completely fascinated by it, but also that motivation also as, just in terms of wanting to, help people and improve lives for people as well. So I think it was a combination of those things.
Right. And then look at now, you are doing exactly what you wanted to do. And, from your industry experience
Hmm.
and from your own knowledge and working collaboratively with lots of other colleagues, and you're doing amazing work. So, yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. And now looking back, from, up to now, your work and your professional development, and are there any sort of greatest challenge or barriers, can I say? And
Mhm.
if you have, unfortunately encountered, some of the challenges or barriers, how did you manage to overcome them?
Yeah, I think most of the challenges and barriers that I've faced have been systemic, and most of the time I'd not even realized until many years later that I'd been facing them.
Oh,
I just, have kept going. Yeah, I just keep going really. And I think what kind of depresses me most these days is knowing how rewarding a career in engineering can be, but yet how few women and girls choose it. I mean, the number of women and girls studying mechanical engineering, for example, it's not changed drastically since I studied over 30 years ago. So it's still only, 20%, 25% of women and girls that come to study mechanical engineering. And I think it's much lower for subjects like computer science.
wow, I see. So it's kind of when you say, the challenges and the barriers is a bit like systematic. And you're right, isn't it? For example, the things you talk about, the number of girls in a classroom, for STEM subject, and it's possibly remain, the same as years ago. And again, this is systematic, sort of across the board. And I really take my hat to you. You're doing your part. And we imagine you through your research, through your teaching, through your work at international global stage, you really inspire, so young girls, we can do this. And there is sort of a platform for us to sort of go far in this subject, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. And another thing I want to ask you is, all these years, can you tell us one or two more memorable moments, throughout your professional and your work and journey?
Yeah, I think it kind of follows on from, what I've just been saying. I think about 10 years ago, I had this epiphany of, where are all the women? And I started to question
Was it?
things, yeah, that, have been so normalized. And nowhere is this more stark in something like sport. So, 10 years ago, there wasn't a women's Tour de France, for example,
Yeah,
and when
yeah.
I switched on the TV, I couldn't see a women's football match. So what I think is that it has been fascinating to watch the exponential rise in the popularity, say, of women's football, and I really hope that this kind of normalization of women and girls playing what has in recent years been a men's game, that starts to kind of bleed into other social spheres, and maybe one day also normalize women and girls entering STEM professions.
Yeah, and I think that would be a really, really good thing, isn't it?
Mhm.
And with that note, can I just ask you, just between us, okay, what do you think are the reasons that all the debilitating factors that's sort of preventing girls to go into STEM subject.
Mhm.
What's your sort of, sort of reading of this?
I think there are two key things. The first one is, social conditioning of women, and
Right,
girls. Well, of girls particularly when we're growing up, and yeah, how we're conditioned, but also, yeah, of course, how boys are conditioned as well, and that affects, what we go on to do. But I also think the second thing as well is that, we need to make sure that engineering and the university is that it's a welcoming environment, really, so that
right.
when, women and girls do come and study engineering, that they thrive and, yeah, go on to do amazing things. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I see what you mean, particularly the second point when I'm just thinking about open days. When
Mhm.
the students, there's some female students and male students coming to university, and yes, the environment, the lab, and all this sort of the building, the atmosphere, it should be sort of welcoming, as inclusive as it can be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. And I'm hoping somebody at the admission office will be listening to this, or marketing office, right? And unfortunately, we're moving on to my last question.
Uh-huh.
So, with this one is, I'm asking you to be brutally honest. Tell us, are there any particular aspects, qualities, or traits about you think yourself and that you feel particularly proud of and you like to share with us?
Mhm. Yeah, I really don't like this question. Uh, as, I think, generally I've been told that, I am, quite a modest person. I
Too
would
modest,
yeah,
possibly.
I would describe myself really as a quietly determined person. So, whether that's committing to run a marathon or advocating for change and equality, I am really determined and tenacious, but also, go about it in a very kind of quiet manner. But I do, I think I do have influence and impact. So, yeah, I just, yeah, certainly describe myself as quietly determined, and someone
Determined.
who keeps going, keeps fighting.
But can I just ask you, Louise, what drives that determination? Is that you want to sort of, right, here's a challenge, right? Everybody keep telling me I can't do it. I don't meet the criteria, but I want to prove I can. I want to prove you're wrong. And what drives this determination?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question, and um, I guess intrinsically, um, I guess I've always liked a challenge and to, you know, uh, prove people wrong, and I think that's probably come from maybe intrinsically, but also, um, my background, where how I was brought up. So, yeah, but I do enjoy a challenge.
Oh, when you say, the background you brought up, and because you mentioned you're the first generation going to university, so that I would imagine quite a few years ago, going to university, first generation was not as easy or as being supported as happening now, isn't it? So maybe in a way, would you say that experience, that background really sort of cemented or reinforced your determination?
Yeah, and I also think role models comes into this. That I never really had a role model for it either, because I was always the first generation to go to university, and
Yeah, that's true.
not many um, women engineers. So yeah, I think, and as I say, I've kept going, but never really had a role model. So I think that's a really interesting reflection. Yeah.
But I tell you what, I think by, sort of talking to us, you are one of the role models for lots of girls and for lots of colleagues who are listening to this, isn't it? And I feel really, really humbled. Thank you. I feel really, really privileged to talking to you to understand all these amazing things you're doing. And unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our conversation. So and Professor Jennings. So thank you very much for talking to me today as part of our Role Models on Your Doorstep podcast series. It's a massive pleasure. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tao.
Right, okay, so sadly, this is the end of our podcast today, and this has been Tao Jiang, and I was talking to Professor Louise Jennings. And for those listening in, I hope you enjoyed our podcast. Thank you for your interest, and please do drop in and listen to other stories we have shared as part of our #warm We Are Role Models project. Speak to you soon. Goodbye for now. Bye. Bye, Professor Jennings.
Bye. Bye. Thank you. Bye.